Welcome back everybody. Now we've had this 2013 model Jayco Swan Outback for a few years now. We converted to this from a soft floor camper trailer and have found we've used it a lot more than our previous camping setup. Now one thing I've been wanting to do for a while is get another caravan or even an older model Jayco camper trailer that we'd be able to do a few DIY and renovation projects on the side. It's been incredibly hard to find something in this market. You've got to get on it straight away or the prices are just absolutely crazy. So in my search for a little project, I've come up with something else. This is a 2005 model Coromal XL 546 and it's a bunk van, but I picked this van up really to flip it because it was a bargain. Its condition is too good to go through and rip it all apart and try to paint stuff up. But it created this very interesting conversation on the way home in that Michelle actually loves the layout of the van inside, having triple bunks in the rear of the van. And we got talking, should we actually sell the Swan and keep this, or what do we do? So I've come up with an idea because there's often people with this similar decision to make. You might be upgrading from a tent, a camper trailer like what we did, or just starting out fresh and thought you'd hunt around for a caravan. You've got a small family and you don't know exactly what you want to do or what you should be buying. So we're going to do a 20k challenge. We're going to put these two vans up against each other and see the pros and cons for each so you can make a well-informed buying decision when you're out hunting around for a new van. Come along as we explore these two options and see what it's all about.
Let's get ready to rumble!
In the green corner, we have our Jayco Swan Outback wind-up camper trailer. In the red corner, we have our Coromal pop-top triple bunk touring caravan.
Now setting up both these vans is very easy. It's just a case of popping open the latches, winding up the roof, then you pop out the beds, wind out the awning, and usually in about 15 to 20 minutes, we're fully set up and ready to crack open that first beer. Now with the pop top, it's pretty much the same. You just undo the 4 latches, pop up the roof, then you just roll out the awning, put up a bit of furniture, and just like the Swan, you're ready to enjoy your camping trip. Now I must say the advantage of a caravan or a pop top is it's so easy to set up and pack down. You're only talking an extra 10 minutes or so with the Jayco camper trailers, but if you're doing a one night stay or you're traveling around a lot, you might want to consider a caravan over a wind up camper trailer. Now these vans are actually laid out quite similar. The big difference is we've got the beds that pop out from either end, which is typical to a Jayco camper trailer, or even the expander range or something along those lines. So you end up with a double bed at the front and a double bed at the rear. This works fine. Our boys sleep in it and there's no dramas at all. That aside, because the beds pop out from either end, you end up with a vast, expansive space inside. And this is something I love over a standard caravan. You've got all the light coming in from the side, you've got a ton of ventilation. The only compromise is when it's really cold, obviously it's not as heavily insulated as a caravan would be. Now this particular pop top has a dinette in the middle. It does have a lounge off to the side. However, for the most part, that's going to be used as your main bedding. And instead of having our pop-out bed at the back, you've got triple bunks. And from my point of view, having the bunks located in the rear of the van is a big bonus. It means the children can go to sleep in the rear of the van and you're not going to disturb them too much as you're going in and out and enjoying the rest of the night. If you've only got 2 children, can they handle sleeping together in a double bed like what we do in the Swan? If you've got more than 2 children, then that mixes things up a little bit. Triple bunk layout is fantastic, and obviously a lot of these lounges and dinettes all convert to bedding as well. My point of view is you really want to have fixed bedding as much as you can. It is a real hassle just converting your living areas into sleeping areas every day, particularly if you're on the road, or even if you're camping long term somewhere. It just means you're having to pack things up and pull things back out. So really consider that bedding point of view. I think in this comparison, it's a tie. The Jayco's interior is expansive. We've got a dinette and a lounge. This Coromal has the triple bunk setup, which really is fantastic, but a massive compromise with the bedding on the front, and this is the only seating area you get. From a towing point of view, our Swan Outback has an ATM of 1670 and it rides on a single axle, while this particular Coromal Excel 546 has an ATM of 1650, so they're very similar from a weight point of view. You'll probably find a lot of single axle caravans come with bunks as well, but given this caravan has a dual axle arrangement and the weights are so close, I've got to give it to the Coromal for towing a little bit better. From a storage point of view, caravans and pop tops really are a winner. Surprisingly, the kitchenette is almost exactly the same as our Swan, so the comparison here is pretty much the same. The one advantage is you end up with some extra cupboard area down the bottom because they can mount the microwave up high. Above the bed here, we've got a lot of extra storage along with some shelving over the top. And then in this particular van, we've got our 3 horsepower air conditioner, a huge wardrobe which sits underneath that, another expansive storage area which wraps in around the wardrobe as well, and then even more storage down under the bed, again which wraps down the back. So being a wind-up camper trailer, the Swan does have a compromise in storage. You don't have any high-level storage at all. You don't have the shelves that you get in a pop-top caravan, and if you're going for a full-size caravan, you get all the overhead cupboards as well. Also, swapping over from a soft floor camper trailer, I was a little bit concerned about the lack of storage that you might have in this configuration. However, I found you have a lot more because you're not putting things in tubs. Everything goes into its normal little hidey hole, so it's all nicely organised and ready for your trip. All we do literally is put our food in the van, our clothes, a few little bits and pieces, pack it down and off we go. But I do have to say, a caravan or a pop top has to win from a storage point of view. When it comes to capability, an off-road caravan or camper trailer is always going to have a massive advantage over a touring caravan. The one negative is obviously you've got a lot more steps to climb up into the van, but once you're inside you get that nice elevated outlook, so that's a bit of a bonus as well. If off-roading and ground clearance aren't really a concern for you, have a look at the touring models. However, just note that these are a lot more popular, so they tend to hold their value a lot more than a touring model. And while we're on the topic of touring vans, you'll also note that they have a lot less clearance than your off-road models. So you have to be particularly aware of your pinch points. On this van, it would be the door. Because there's no external step, it sits quite low, and so you do run the risk of damaging it if you're not looking at what you're doing. The other compromise with a longer twin axle van is that they're less manoeuvrable. So in my book, I think the Swan wins out on this one. Obviously, if you're looking in a very specific budget, a camper trailer is probably going to be a slightly newer proposition to a caravan of a similar price range. So this particular caravan is 8 years older than our Swan and does have a few things that aren't as new or modern, such as the electrics. Both these vans have solar panels and battery storage, so they are fairly equal in that point of view. This actually has a little bit more battery storage in that it's a twin battery setup versus our single battery over in the Swan. This van also has a number of USB outlets and 240 volt outlets, so they're very comparable from that point of view. But the one thing that I would definitely upgrade if I was going to keep this van is the lighting. So this particular van runs all the old incandescent globes for the tail lights, side marker lights, external lights, interior lights, which run hotter and they're not as reliable either. Whereas all your modern vans run LED tail lights, side markers, even your outdoor lights are LED in these newer vans. They run cooler, they're not hot to touch, and they're just so much more energy efficient. You particularly notice this at night time with the bright light that you get from the LEDs compared with the dull yellow light that you have in these older caravans. So the Swan's got all its nice LED lighting, modern battery management, solar controller. It just is that little bit better from an energy point of view, so it wins this one. Now a camper trailer will naturally have a little bit more maintenance than say a caravan. You've got a lot more canvas, flight screens, vinyl, all those sort of bits and pieces. You've also got to look at and maintain the lifting mechanism for the roof, and obviously all the seals and bits and pieces that go with it as well. You'll see in a previous video we resealed the roof of our van. These are extremely prone to leaking, as are pop-top caravans, to be honest. So you just need to look around, make sure that the condition is acceptable to the price being asked, and once you own it, look after it. Don't pack it away when it's wet. Dry it all out if you do pack it away when it's wet, and keep it nice and healthy, and it will last a long time. From a maintenance point of view, caravans do have their issues as well. You need to make sure all the seals are nice and tidy and intact. You want to check all around the skirts if it's a pop top, and also all the roof seals and bits and pieces like that, exactly the same as a camper trailer. You also want to check internally for any signs of leaking and water ingress around windows. A lot of them were factory installed with foam gaskets which have a tendency to break down. So double check, make sure all the windows are intact and there's no signs of leakage into the van, particularly water staining on the interior. Our particular van is one of the last leaf spring models you can get. Once you get to the newer type vans, they come with independent suspension, and while that's great from a marketing point of view and off-road ability, they do come with their own problems. You need to make sure that they're aligned properly, otherwise you get a lot of excessive tyre wear. If you're doing a lot of remote touring, a leaf spring setup might be better for you. Parts are readily available and there's not much really to go wrong. But make sure you get it checked over by someone, check that everything's all nicely greased and that the caravan or camper trailer that you're looking at isn't all nasty and yucky underneath. Now, while dual axle caravans tow extremely well and are very stable on the road, there is additional maintenance items in that if you need to replace tyres, you've got 4 to replace. Same applies to bearings and all the bits and pieces that go into them. So while these items aren't a deal breaker, it's certainly something to consider. And as with everything, condition is key. Check underneath, make sure it's all okay, check all your canvas, check your roof, and just make sure you're getting the best van you can possibly get for your money. Now from a security point of view, the one huge advantage a caravan or pop-top has over a camper trailer is a door you can properly lock and solid walls, meaning it's pretty hard for anyone to get in. And while most modern camper trailers do have a reasonably solid door that you can lock, they're really not that secure. Anyone can get their hands in behind the canvas and open it all back up. So from a security point of view, we do tend to put our valuables in the car if we're moving around or leaving site. We do actually have a safe in this van. However, I find it's a pain to use, so I hardly ever use it. Or you got to try to hide things. It's just one of those compromises you make when you go for something that's nice and open like this versus a caravan that's a lot more solid and closed in. When it comes to light and ventilation, you really can't go past a camper trailer. Just having this wall-to-wall, end-to-end openness is a huge advantage in my book, particularly if you're camping in the warmer months of the year. We find it's not too bad in winter. You can close up all the curtains and it stays reasonably warm if you've got a decent heater. In summer, just letting that cross-flow ventilation go through is fantastic. If you're in a picturesque camping spot, there's nothing better than being able to pull that canvas down in the morning and have a look out at the scenery and enjoy the serenity. Now, when it comes to a caravan or a pop top, you're naturally a little bit more restricted in regards to light and ventilation because you've got a number of walls running around that make up the rigidity of the caravan. And they're all going to vary depending on who's making it and the configuration you've got. This particular Coromal actually isn't too bad from a light and ventilation point of view. It's got a number of windows up the front. The back's a little bit dark, but that's not too bad because that's where you're going to be sleeping. One advantage of a pop top over a caravan, in my view, from a light and ventilation point of view, is you can open up the skirts and let a lot of extra light and ventilation through the roof of the caravan where you collect a lot of heat. And that's something you should probably consider as well. The downside of a pop top versus a full-size caravan is you do increase the chance of leakage through the skirt material itself and all the different junctions that you've got. Very similar to a camper trailer. But from a light and ventilation point of view, I'm sorry, the Swan wins there.
That's a wrap!
You need to consider where you're going to store the van when you're not using it. So these camper trailers fold down to a reasonably compact size. However, the Swan in particular is a real tight squeeze into most garages. But from a head clearance point of view, they'll generally fit through the door. You've still got to check the length to make sure it will fit in. However, there are other models and similar camper vans which do fit in a standard residential garage. But when it comes to a full-size caravan, they don't fold up. So you need to make sure that you can accommodate the length of the van into whatever area you're going to store it in. Pop tops are good because the roof does come down. So this pop top here, we can actually accommodate in our shed behind. However, it will take up the full entire length of the shed, so it's not all that practical. So certainly have a think about where you're going to park your van once you purchase it. Now onto accessories. Items such as air conditioning, hot water systems, diesel heaters, awnings, bike rack, pole storage, entertainment accessories, and even what's included under the kitchen sink will likely influence your buying decision when it comes to looking for that perfect van. Have a think about what you really need and join a number of Facebook groups where you can ask questions. For example, when we were looking around for our Jayco Swan, I really wanted an inbuilt hot water unit, but after asking a few questions and discussing with people in a few Facebook groups, I soon discovered they take up one of the main cupboard spaces in your kitchenette. And as you know, with these camper trailers, storage is a premium. So I took that out of my list and instead went looking for a van that had a wind-out awning instead of the traditional bag awnings. So my recommendation is to make a list of wants and needs and then work out your preferred combo and go hunting for that. That'll help cull out a lot of vans that don't suit your needs and make sure you're focusing on that van that's right for you. And that concludes our comparison. Who came out on top? Well, I do have to say that it's very, very equal between the two different vans depending on what you want to do. In our case, I think we would stay with the Swan just because from an off-grid point of view, it's got a lot more advantages. It can get out there and about in a lot more places we want to go out and explore compared to a touring caravan like the Coromal behind us. I have to say, I absolutely love the triple bunk setup in this Coromal caravan. It's a shame the front bed's a bit of a compromise, and if we were looking to upgrade somewhere down the track, I'd have to consider a Starcraft or a Journey in that similar configuration, but as a more modern off-road van. So let us know how we went, put a few comments down below. Please subscribe to our channel, like this video if you enjoyed it. I'm trying to add in some different bits and pieces that isn't really out there for those people that are looking to get into caravanning or camping and don't really know what to do or where to look. This hopefully gives you a bit of an idea on these two types that are out there on the market and might help you make a more well-informed decision. So I've got to get on to another video now while this is all set up. So we'll catch you next time. Get out there, stay safe and have fun. Thanks for watching.